All right, all right. So we got Mothman and Jymbo from.
Hey, hey.
Am I saying this correctly? Is it Emissary? Emissary?
Emissary. Yeah.
All right, I said it right. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I was not good in English.
No, it's all good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, guys. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are part of season 2 of the collection of the new guys that are coming out, and so I want to talk about the album. I want to talk about The Wretched Masquerade, which,
awesome,
by the way, greatest fucking album title of all time. I'm like, fuck, I wish I wrote that shit.
Yeah, we're pretty proud.
That was pretty cool, man. And let's talk about it. Dive right in. Where do you guys want to go? I mean, I want to. Actually, I do want to start with production-wise. Phenomenal production, guys. I love the sound. Heavy as balls, dude. Talk to me.
Thank you, Jimbo. Oh, well, okay, I'll start. We wrote this stuff when we were kids and learning how to do all of this with the dream of being in a rock magazine one day and being on those big stages and playing the same music that our heroes played. And I came from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and I was lucky enough, I'm not going to say my age, but I was lucky enough to grow up during the Bay Area thrash, just the beginning of it, and throughout the meat of it in the 80s. I've seen Metallica in a club, so that's nice. How far I go back on the Red Lightning tour.
I don't think there's any shame in being in your late 30s. I mean,
correct.
No, there's not. There's really not. I'm 35, dude, so we're all in the same boat. Yeah.
Well, I'll take that, and we'll pretend that is fact.
Age is just a number, brother. Age is just a fucking number.
Yeah, it's being documented, so we'll take that as fact. Growing up in the Bay Area, obviously, I was a fan of all the 80s hard rock. Rush, Kiss, and AC/DC were the first things I got really into, and then I got into Rat and Scorpions and just all of those bands that fit into the same box in the 80s. And then the thrash thing happened and I was blown away just by the power of it. I tend to like the stuff that was a little less fast, but I still like the fast stuff, but I like the mid-tempo stuff the best. But anyway, so I grew up in that and just that is the stuff that really moved me. And I started playing guitar, not even knowing what to do in my mid-teens and just trying to play those riffs off Master of Puppets and those albums. And then once I met Jim, I was still kind of learning how to play guitar. I could play power chords, but was just learning what a scale was and reading books about it. And met Jymbo, and we started writing all of these songs that we now have on the Wretched Masquerade. And we did a lot of demos back then, but never had the time or money to properly, give the right complexion to these songs and treat them properly. So when we got the chance to do that, a couple of years ago, we took it, and everything, when we threw out the information online that, hey, it started out, actually, I was talking to my drummer about, he just was like, what if we did a reunion show after 25 years, and like in a small club or in somebody's backyard, just to drink some beers and talk about old times. And then that turned into, at that same time, we ended up in this, I'll get back to this later, or Jim will, we got into this history book of hard rock and heavy metal in the Pacific Northwest. And then all of these things fell into place. And then all of a sudden, Jymbo put out there online, hey, what if Emissary kind of got back together, started kicking the tires and doing some stuff just for fun. And we got Underground Power Records out of Germany immediately hit us up and said, hey, I'll sign you guys. I'll put your album out if you guys want to do an album. And then so we were like, whoa. And then all of a sudden this producer named Doug Hill, who had done a band that I love, Helmet. He had done the last Helmet album, worked with Mastodon, some of the guys from Neurosis, and some other great bands. All of a sudden, he's like, if you guys are doing an album, I want to produce it. I want to mix it.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, that starts happening. And then we find a guy that had worked with some Metal Blade bands to master it. And then we also worked with a guy from Capitol Records on one of the songs, because we were kind of testing two guys out. And all of these things fell into place. And then there, we just started recording, and I knew how to use my home studio, but really learned the process with Doug, talking back and forth with Doug, because I'm in Denver and Doug's in Oregon. So we're going back and forth, start sending him all my guitar stems. And then that's how we did it. Our drummer was in Alaska playing, and we did clean up some of the songs. We definitely, we're better musicians now. So we're like, when we listen to the old demos, we're definitely like, man, I should have done that there. Man, I wish I was more seasoned, so I would have done this.
Yeah, that's every musician, brother. That's
it has
every
to be.
music. It has to be, dude. Because I'll listen to some of my stuff. Yeah, I'll listen to my stuff, dude, and I'm just like, fuck, I should have done this on the bass, or fuck, I should have. Yeah, I wish I found this plugin, or whatever the fuck.
No, I mean, talk about digital now. It's before we didn't even really use a click track in the studio, and we did a couple takes, and after a couple takes, it's like, well, don't have time to keep going on this, and I wasn't that great. I have red light syndrome, so when the red light's on, my hand's stiffen up, and I'm like, I gotta play it perfectly. But
red light syndrome, I like it. I'm gonna write that one down.
It's horrible. I mean, that's what I call it, because just when I see that red light, I'm just like, I'm
so good production is the one thing that we were lacking. We kind of had everything else, and then being able to actually get this stuff recorded and mixed and mastered properly and put out. And
definitely
with that album cover by Don Yotomi, which bands look up Donald Yotomi Fine Art, hit that guy up. That's a plug. I mean, this guy is incredible. He just did some more art for us that hasn't been released yet for an upcoming digital single, and it's unreal. I mean, jaw-dropping this guy's artwork. And that's another thing is packaging it right. I mean, it's not just when you say production, it's not just the production of the sound, but it's how the package works together. The right photos and the right layout and all that just kind of like makes it a full meal. So you go, yummy. This is exactly what I wanted.
Exactly.
Branding for sure is real big especially in metal. Again, people don't buy a Bush album and sit on their bed and listen to Bush or live or just, I don't know, Stone Temple Pilots and stare at the album while they're listening to the music. They don't do that. Metal is really the genre that people dive all the way in, eat every last, I'm going to go with Jim here, eat every last French fry, and then lick their fingers at the end.
And get the crumbs,
Exactly.
All the
cheese on the paper,
lick the paper. That's the name of the new album, by the way. Lick the paper.
Lick the paper. Nice.
The name of the new release. But so we're very proud of it. And Jim and I, after 25 plus years, luckily we were able to bring that same magic back of the way him and I write together. And while adjusting the old songs to make them new songs, and be able to deliver this album to the world the way we really would have loved to do back in the day.
No, and it's sounding great, guys. It's sounding, the thing I really appreciate the sound is not only it's got a modern kind of production, right? We got the upgraded stuff, but it's got the old school vibe that I always love, man. And that was
important.
That was man, because that's one of the things. It's like we there's so many like these young cats that are always kind of just like, okay, we got to tune low, right? And we got to have everything sounds too processed, right? But
definitely.
with you guys, there was some warmth to it. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of wanted to start off in like, with how was the production process, right?
Definitely,
and how did it sound, and I kind of want to ask Jim, because I don't know, if some episodes of the podcast, I'm always like, the singer, what's up with the singer, what was your approach? I know every singer is a snowflake, right? Very different approaches, very different, very
unique, don't call me a snowflake.
Yeah, right.
We gotta stay away from that talk.
Yeah,
right.
You're a frosted flake. How about that?
There you
and I've said this kind of thing before in interviews. I don't really consider myself a singer, and I know that's weird, but I mean, I'm a front man, and I have to sing because I have to deliver the songs. But I'm not sitting here practicing 1,000 scales a day and trying to be the next Ronnie James Dio. I just trying to be the voice of Emissary. And I think that I don't think anybody's going to hear me and go, oh man, I want to hear that guy sing the phone book. But I think that when you hear me singing for Emissary, you go, that's the right voice that belongs in that band or whatever. And when we talked to Doug, his approach was basically, he asked us for, I think, 3 albums or something to just review and say, okay, I want to understand your brand. and we sent him, I think, Death Angel Act 3,
Mhm.
maybe a Whiplash record, Insult to Injury, and an Annihilator record. I'm not
Mhm.
sure which Annihilator record, but just saying, look, melodic thrash. That's kind of what we do. It's U.S. power metal.
Mhm.
We also get lumped in with the Laws Rocket and Heathen and those kind of bands too.
Mhm.
Vicious Rumors, that kind of stuff. But we're not epic power metal. It's not European
Mhm.
power metal. It's U.S. power metal, which is
Yeah.
basically just traditional heavy metal with a little bit of thrash infused. And that's kind of what we went for as far as the production. We just wanted it to sound right for our fans and the people that are fans of this kind of music. If we had a producer trying to make us sound like Jellyfish or I don't know, the White Stripes or something, and panning things in a weird way and not the right amount of reverb on the vocals, people are going to go, it doesn't sound right. There's a reason
Yeah,
it's called traditional. Traditional
exactly.
heavy metal is because it's got the traditional ingredients that you like. So yeah, and having that little hint of modern in there was kind of always our thing. Was we came out in the 90s, but I'm a super 80s dude, so all of my influences, the more 80s the better. The other guys lean
Mm.
a little bit more modern, so we kind of find this happy medium, this place where where we meet. And so you go, it doesn't sound like it came out in 1987,
Yeah.
but it also doesn't
Exactly.
sound like it came out in 1997. There's little bits of 80s cliches or whatever, and some modern elements that you go, oh, little surprises, little stop start guitar parts and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that is Tim's influence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and when you said Heathen, I was like, yep, no, there it is. Yeah, because I'm a big Heathen fan, man. I love
Yeah.
those guys, man. What they talk about, the production, how they've evolved, right? And I see the hint of that with you guys, right?
And Metal
Eh,
Church, we get Metal Church a lot too.
oh,
Sure.
really? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Definitely the
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
riffs.
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. With just in your face, straight to the point, and that's what's missing, man. And that's why when it's funny because I was listening to you guys, and then the new Overkill came on, and
Yes.
I was like, oh shit. I was like,
So
okay,
good.
yeah, 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 oh, yeah,
So
okay, we
good.
we got it, we got it, we got it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So and I appreciate you guys talking about the influence, right? It's just we know where we're coming from, where we're going with this, right?
Sure.
you know so I mean, talk to me a little bit more about the album, just kind of like how the songs kind of you know came out, right? How did you guys perceive it? What were some of the subject matters, so for some of the people to listen to you guys, what are we kind of sinking our teeth into?
Sure.
So when Tim and I met, he had a bunch of previously written riffs and no lyrics, and I had a bunch of lyrics and no riffs, and
Ah.
we met, and he says it's like we're two puzzle pieces from two different puzzles that just happen to fit together.
Yeah.
I say peanut butter and jelly. It's just a thing that my strange way of writing lyrics and vocal melodies, and his slightly off kilter way of putting riffs together. We put those two things together, and when the other guys add their spice onto it, and I got to give credit to not only the guys that played on the record, but the guys that are in the band now, because on the record we've got Charlie Franzipane on lead guitar as well. Peter Sean Kinney, who was in the band back in the day, is amazing bass player, and Eric Hoover on drums played on the record. And then when he left, we got Tony Mullins on drums, who's in the band now. And when those guys, add their flavor into what we create, it sounds like Emissary to me.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
as far as subject matter, I mean, it was basically like whatever came to my mind. I wrote a lot of the lyrics when I was in high school, so this is like, we're
Oh,
talking
nice.
1989, 90. I updated them a bit for the new record, and Hypochondriac was a tune that we had half written back in the day, and when we got back together, I said we got to finish that song and put that on the album. That's sort of a bridge to the new material that we're writing now.
Oh, nice, nice,
Definitely.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, Tim, how would guitar rise, right? I mean, do we start off with you, kind of like what Jimbo was saying? Hey, you got the riffs, right? Is that kind of where we start, or is this kind of like, hey, I'll send you stuff, you send me stuff? How does being the guitar player that go about with the writing process?
Usually I'll hear something, like I'll be listening to Megadeth or Death Angel or Exciter or whoever. I'll be listening, and it could be Rat, it could be it could be Rush. Rush is probably my favorite band of all time,
Yeah,
and that's a lot different than the music that that Emissary does.
of
And
course. Yeah.
I am definitely influenced by Alex Lifeson, but I don't think I adopted that as part of my style really. But I would say I'll think of dude. I have on my phone, I have this little voice memo thing. I don't know how many thousands of things you can hit play, and it's me going, just oh my god, I got an idea. Yeah, just I'm just so many ideas a day come into my head, and a lot of them and I end up never going back. But the ones that excite me, I'm super ADHD, so I'll either get home and get to my guitar, or I'll set an alarm on my phone for like an hour later. Dude, check out the voice memos and start working on a riff. But I would say back then, again, I was learning how to play guitar. I had just learned, some of the open chords, but I really just once my best friend's brother, I got a guitar and I was playing on one string, literally playing Iron Man and Smoke on the Water, just like every other guitar player, one finger, because I didn't even grasp the other part. We didn't have the internet or anything, so I couldn't go get a quick YouTube lesson. So this guy was like, if you stick your other finger here, 3 frets up, or 2 frets up from there, if you do that on the next string, check that out. And I did, and then that was it. Now I can play the intro to Master of Puppets and all of these things. That excited me. And so I didn't have that much more than that when I moved to Oregon to go to college, and then I met Jim. So I really was determined. I played all the time, and I took a lesson from this guy, a couple lessons, and then I just said, how do people do solos? Do they figure out what sounds good and then remember that? Or is there some kind of a pattern? And he's like, oh, it's a scale. So let's learn the pentatonic scale. So right when he taught me that, I was like, I'm going to be a rock star now. Look how that works.
Yeah. I learned that, I don't know, like last year. I was like, oh, that's how they do it. Okay.
Right?
All right.
It's pretty amazing. The just how that just blew my mind. It's so simple, but it blew my mind. And I'm like, now it's up to me. Now it's up to me, because I could really just do the rest of my life just knowing the pentatonic scale, and then I'd be good. I mean, so many metal guitar players. That's all they
Sabbath
use.
did it. Sabbath did
Right?
it, man.
So I mean, and if Tony Iommi didn't invent some of those like tritones and those creepy things, I mean, and Jymbo knows that from me. That's where I always lean to. I always try and find that the creepiness in something.
Dark. It's got to be a bit dark.
It's got to be in the minor key. It's got to be in the minor key.
Always minor.
All
correct.
Minor. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, actually, it's funny. Let me say real quick that that Charlie is writing a little bit now with us, our other guitar player, and he's more of a Van Halen guy. So he'll throw a little bit of major in there occasionally and brighten things up. And it's kind of like we're like, what? Wait a second. You use a note that we don't use or whatever.
We definitely I actually mixed the two early on. There's a song Chemical Hatred on the album where I do go major minor back and forth. I also all of a sudden you hear me do this bright D chord and this bright A chord, and then I go back into the minor, and then I make it weird and creepy enough that, like, that song I do some really creepy guitar movements, and then I go to the bright stuff, and I didn't know it's funny, Charlie in the band, this dude is like a theory virtuoso, and he'll call me after hearing a song that I wrote or something I wrote, and he'll be like, dude, are you like a genius or completely unaware when you're writing that you're nailing? And he sat down for an hour and a half and wrote out all of this theory and the notes and sent me a picture of it. And he's like, do you realize what you've done? And I'm like, first of all, you sound like my dad when I was a kid, and I don't really like that. So back that off a little bit. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm just like, it's just my ear, dude. I know nothing about, like, he's like, you're doing things wrong in the complete right way. Eddie Van Halen said it's not it's what is it? It's not music fact, it's music theory. So it's you don't have to. It's not all perfect. If it sounds right, it sounds right. So I guess basically when I started writing riffs, it was all because of Metallica and Death Angel and all of the bands I loved from the 80s. And then once I learned that stuff and learned how to solo a little bit, I will write a bunch of riffs. Jim was great with helping me in the beginning with, like, okay, that riff sounds more like a chorus than a verse, because the melody line I can put over that will be the the meat of the song. So we would go back and forth, and then there were times with vocals I would be like, what if you held this out? And so it was great how we worked together, and we could not step on each other's toes, but
Yeah,
come
'cause
into
I'll
this
write-
disc.
Hey everybody, jumping in real quick just to let you know about today's sponsor, Metal and Iron. Are you a gym goer? Do you like listening to metal? Do you like lifting heavy? Well, Metal and Iron's got you covered with shirts and designs that are there to let people know that you're about the heavy lifestyle. None of this Gymshark shit, none of this Adidas, Nikes, nah, you're there to lift the heavy shit. So check it out. Use the code BEYONDHEAVY for 15% off and let them know Mayhem sent you.
I'll write a riff, or he'll suggest a vocal melody change or whatever, and that's so we're influencing each other's writing as well. You know, it's not just straight like, you know, he writes just this is how the song goes from beginning to end. Here's the music, and then I write the words from beginning to end. Here's the words. It's not really like that. We kind of go back and forth, and it's the going back and forth. Like we did this with the artwork for the album as well. Like
Hours,
hours of concept ideas, just batting it back and forth until it sits right in that spot, the Emissary spot. And Tim, you gave me an idea. I think that we should release an album that is just all of those audio notes where it's just people and it's just you going
You know what?
One day.
I would buy the deluxe edition.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
Give me a
you.
shirt. Give me the with him just like this, like on the cover. Like, I'm fucking down, brother. I'm
Finger
fucking
guns.
down.
I'll put my PayPal link in the comments for you.
There
so
we go.
You could buy the first copy.
There we go. I'm
you
down.
know, but with that, I was still new, but I think I would, you know, some people can pick up a guitar and it takes them either a long time or they just, yes, anybody can do anything. That's really not true. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm not going to be president of the United States no matter how hard I try or what I do about it. Some things are just tough for some people. Some people are tone deaf and they can't sing even if they want to. So for me, it was easy. Once I figured it out, my fingers were okay with going to those weird spots. There's some things I still can't do that I sometimes try, certain songs that I'll try and play from back in the day that I'm just like, nah, that's just not in my space. But for the writing of the riffs, I definitely, there's a song, Metallica, like I think it's the third song. I get so confused but what side of albums I used to listen to, but Eye of the Beholder by Metallica. After that intro part happens and they go into the meat of the song, you cannot not bang you're just like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing you've ever heard. Or even loudness, Crazy Nights, or you know, the fight, Nailed to the Gun. There are certain riffs out there that you're just like, you can't not move your head, and that's where I always wanted to live. So that's where I wrote the majority of my riffs. It was from that feeling. And for the album, the newer thing for me was, I did it a little back then, of course, on the demos, but was finding other space. You know, I have the guitar parts for this, and now I have to do some other guitar parts to go along with that. So that was new for me obviously back then, because I was still a new guitar player. But with the new album, I was like, okay, I can add some sounds in here that make it sound big, and the harmonies. I didn't do a lot of harmonies back then. I did some, but now, you know, I was able to do more guitar harmonies. And Charlie is an amazing addition to the band. He came after the album was done. He did get a solo part on In Solitude, which we were super grateful for, but he was still pretty new. So I ended up doing all the guitar parts, and with doing all the guitar work, I did so many the first couple songs I sent our producer like 80-90 tracks, and he's like, dude. And even the singer guitar player, right? The singer guitar player from Helmet even commented on it and said, yeah, dude, tell him that it's not necessary.
Yeah, not to quadruple the guitars. He's like, you don't need that. You know,
and
you can do doubles.
Four or six rhythms for each side. Like I knew he was going to pan it, so I'm doing like you know, up to 12 rhythm tracks of the exact same thing, and then I start noticing it's muddying up a little bit. So luckily, when I send all my tracks and stems to Doug, he'll, okay, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. But definitely it was all my influence that allowed me to write these kind of riffs. And Jymbo was the perfect guy to come in and help me organize that and throw his his lyrics and vocal parts to it. And
each of us
it's
had the
exciting.
thing that the other guy needed.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things I did like about you guys is that you and the guitars, you Jim and Mr. Mothman, we were at the top, right? We could hear you guys nice, crisp, clear,
Yeah.
heavy. And then the bottom end, the drums and the rhythm are perfect. Like I was like, and as a bass player, I'm like, I'm looking for that, right? We're always looking for what we play, right? And I was like, they're solid. They ain't going nowhere. They got a good foundation. You
Thank
guys
you.
are right at the top, and I fucking love it, man. Because
Thank
a
you.
lot of bands don't do that shit anymore. They don't. They're just like all of us come in like, nah, dude. There's a method to the madness, man.
Yeah.
It's all about build-ups and
Yeah, man.
stacking the right way, because it's all those great intros like Blackened. I keep mentioning Metallica, but like Blackened or
Who? No, I'm just kidding.
Battery or Fight Fire with Fire.
Yeah.
You know, they build up, and sometimes it's from a place you don't expect. And with the rhythm section, you know, I'm pretty anal. Jim can be too. So if something's not sounding perfect, especially now with the technology, and something's not sounding perfect on the album, we definitely are like, you know, and luckily Doug is kind of a perfectionist with this. He wants the best product for us. So now maybe we do that part again. Maybe we fix this up. Could you do this over? And a lot of bass players nowadays, and Pete's a great bass player. He can move around everywhere, but sometimes you just need, boom, stay with the kick. Just stay with the kick. Stay with the kick, because you need to, you know, and metal, that's the beauty of metal is the contrast. Pete's not playing exactly what I'm playing, which makes it dynamic.
Exactly. No, and a lot of bass players don't know how to do that anymore. A lot of bass players are just guitar players. They're just
Copy the guitar.
Yeah, man. And when I was listening to you guys, I'm like, oh, it's so solid. It's perfect dynamics. His tone is great. It complements you guys. He's not trying to be over here, over there. You know what I mean? It's just perfect. And then we could hear, and what I think I like about it the most is I'll listen to the vocals and the bass, right? And I'm listening how high we're going with the vocals, right? The clarity, right? The significance of it. And then the bass, right? Where does it fit? Right. And he fits perfectly, man. So Jimbo, sorry to cut you off, brother. I know you were saying something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, you know, as far as being a perfectionist with this stuff, I'm the kind of person, I don't want to have regrets later and say, you know, oh man, we should have done this or whatever, because we've already done that. We were together back in the day, and we didn't know what we were doing. We recorded the songs, and then if there was a spot that bugged us and we just left it, we had to listen to that for 20 years. And then, you know, the band breaks up and we all go our separate ways and did other projects. And then we finally come back together. Then it's like, okay, now let's give the world the record the way that it should have sounded, or the way it sounded in our heads, you know, and fix that one little moment, you know, where maybe I sang a word that was kind of awkward, or there was a drum fill that didn't exactly fit, or whatever. And that was a lot of what this new album was perfecting that old material. And now we're on our way to the second album, writing all new material. And some of it is pieces and parts of ideas that we had left over from before, with a new, as Tim calls it, complexion.
Okay. Well, Tim,
Definitely.
I mean, instead of 90, we got 180 of a bunch of tracks, 180 tracks now. 180 guitar parts, right?
No,
you mentioned Paige from Hamilton. Paige Hamilton was the one that told, he's buddies with our producer Doug, and he said, he's like, man, tell Tim he doesn't need to stack all those guitars, because after a while, no matter how tight you get it, like it's not ever going to sound as tight as the double, you know, like the double is as tight as you can get it. And then each one after that, I mean, you can line them up. It's not gonna, it doesn't make it sound thicker. And Tim was resistant, was like, I don't know, man. And then after he heard what Doug did, he says, okay, now I get it, you know.
I just wanted to sound ballsy. And part of when we restarted Emissary, if I could go off on this for a second, when we re-upped, you know, we were, you know, our brains were thinking possibly we're going to be a 4-piece. And I was just like, no, dude, no. When we got our opportunity to open for Tesla, which was our first show back in 25 years, to play with Tesla in front of like all these people, I was like, I just personally, now yeah, you got Zach Wilde and his bands, and you got Eddie Van Halen, and you got so many great, Motley Crue, and so many great bands that can do this. But I hate when the guitar drops out during a guitar solo. And I know on the album a lot, the guy, like even Alex Lifeson did rhythms under his guitar solos, but I just don't like that dropout. I don't like the dropout. I love bass players and I love bass, but I just need a rhythm underneath the guitar playing. And that's why we had another gentleman that we were talking to that was starting to learn the songs, and it just wasn't progressing right and wasn't the right fit. So I knew Charlie I was in another band and I was on tour, and we were playing in New York with this other band, and I was just blown away by their guitar player. I was just like, this guy is like Paul Gilbert and Eddie Van Halen. He was so I didn't think he picked much. He's just tapping and stuff. So I'm like,
lots of finger tapping.
The contrast between he and I could be pretty amazing. So about 5 weeks before the Tesla show, he had called me and said, hey, do you have any projects anywhere? He lives about 6 hours from me, but he's like, I'm bored. Anything going on? I said, let me call you back tomorrow. So I called him back and I was like, okay, because I had to clean up the other guitar player situation before. I didn't want to have two guys not knowing. And then so he was like, yeah, I'm in. And then all of a sudden he's in the band. And I'm not a super shredder at all. And if you listen to the album, you'll definitely notice it's not because I can't do it. Some of the stuff I can't do very well, but I can, if we're recording an album, I can go in and practice each part and get it super shreddy. But we just don't feel it's fully necessary to do that. Now I can I'm a decent guitar player. I can write, but I care more about the melodic stuff. So I'm a really big Chris DeGarmo fan. And again, I'm not a huge Pink Floyd guy, but David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, I like the way he plays guitar. So I wanted to write solo. I just wanted solos so you could sing in your head. Like Comfortably Numb, the guitar solo in that. Everybody knows that guitar solo. It's
the solo in Time. In
right?
Time.
Well, there's so many. Yeah,
dude,
so
I listen to it. I'm like, I already want to start crying. I'm like, oh god damn it,
See, that's literally me. Oh my god. Yes. So I want to give people those feelings, and I'm really excited for the new album because I did really work really hard on writing the right solos, at least in my head, for some parts, and we're working on a release right now that I wrote this very simple solo for, but that I feel like people will really feel. But
it's good.
But anyway, the guitar player dynamic was definitely something that we cared about. And once we got this other amazing guitar player, I felt like, okay, we have all of the pieces. And I will mention on Ruler of Defiance, on our new album, on Wretched Masquerade, we have a guest guitar soloist that is not me doing the main guitar solo. That's Claudius Kramer of Possessed, the band Possessed. So we were lucky enough, Jim knows him. So I was like,
Wikipedia, bring that in so they could type that in.
Right, dude.
The credits, right?
Yeah. No, I got to give him credit because, dude, Possessed. I grew up in the Bay Area. Part of that thrash scene, and a few guitar players removed from Larry Lalonde, who's now in Primus. Claudius is the virtuoso guitar player in that band, and I didn't at the time. I wasn't like, how am I going to do that solo live? There's no way. But
so we give it to Charlie.
Charlie did.
Improv, brother. Improv. Fuck it.
Right? I mean, Charlie pretty much improvs, but he does his own version.
Fast is good where it belongs, but we're not. That's why we're not just a straight thrash band, because we don't play fast very frequently. It's not very often. So when you go into something fast, like the fast parts in Ruler of Defiance, for example, is like it feels like it means it more, because you've been waiting for it. So when you hear those double time drums come in and all that stuff, the double all that fast stuff, you feel it. If you're playing, blast beats from the beginning, it's like you're gonna lose the energy by the fourth song, I think.
Of course.
There's nowhere to go.
Exactly. No, and then I love how you said it, Jim. It's like, dude, that's what you have to do, right? This is where that's what it calls for, right? You can't throw a David Gilmour solo in when you're going fucking 200 BPM. You can't. It's just not gonna work.
No,
right. It's just like it doesn't make any sense, So I completely agree with that.
We definitely care about the blueprint of rock songs, metal and rock. We care about, for the most part, we're not going to start the song necessarily
The
with
songwriting, brother. You guys
yeah,
got
with
the
the bridge,
songwriting,
right?
yeah.
So we emulate that. Okay. Intro, build up, verse, chorus, or verse, pre-chorus, and then another riff, and then go into the next verse and not give them the chorus yet. You know, so we still use that blueprint at the same time, kind of writing songs differently than you know. I'm not going to be dude, I think we're completely original. I've heard so many bands are like, you really don't sound like anybody, and I'm like, no, you sound like this 600 bands, dude. And I know
it's
that
a piece of this and a piece of this and a piece of this and a piece of
Yeah.
this.
It's all influence, brother. It's all influence.
we weren't
'Cause,
scared
like,
of that.
yeah, no, and don't and that's not putting yourself in a corner or anything like that. It's another flavor. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because like I
definitely.
could listen to Heathen and be like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'm like, I want something other than Heathen. Oh, but I do want to still listen. I want to listen to Emissary. You know what I mean? Like I still want to keep it in the ballpark, but I know you guys are completely fucking different, right? Same
Yeah.
realm, but different.
Sure.
Yeah.
If somebody
Definitely.
asked me in an interview, like, if somebody asked you what your band sounded like, what would you tell them? And it wasn't an easy thing to answer because
That's hard.
I'd
That's a
have to
hard
make them
question.
I'd have to make them a mixtape of this
Yeah.
specific metal church song, this specific heretic song, this specific heathen song, this specific annihilator song, and they would have to listen to 20 bands or something and then get a mental picture of like, okay, I kind of get what these guys are doing, because we don't do all the stuff that all of those bands do. We
Of
do
course.
some of the things that those bands do,
Yeah.
and put
No,
it all
absolutely.
together, and that's why it sounds like Emissary.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Actually, yeah. And kind of switching gears on the new album, the new stuff. I don't want to really, I don't,
Sure.
be premature about it or anything. I just want to, for people to kind of get excited, right? What are we looking at? I kind of want to hear from you, Jim. From the vocal perspective, where is there going to be a different approach, right? Is there going to be a different method to the madness when it comes to vocals on the second one?
So a lot of these lyrics and the vocal melodies that are on The Wretched Masquerade are things that I put together 25 years ago.
Mhm.
So, and then slightly updated for the way I write now. But I've written a bunch of songs since then. I mean, I've written probably over 100 songs myself, just, music and lyrics, played in other bands. So I write a little bit differently. And I would hope I write better than I did then. I mean, I think the things that I was already good at, I've maintained. But I think that you're going to hear some things that are maybe when you listen to the record, you'll go, okay, there's spots that like that sounds like that could have been on the first record. And then there are going to be moments when you're like, oh, there's an interesting thing I didn't expect, or that's something that they didn't do on the first record. And I've been trying to stay away from saying the same things I've said in other interviews, but I kind of have to go back to this with Metallica. I mean, I know we just name drop them nonstop, but Metallica's Kill 'Em All, when it came out, everybody knew that as the Metallica sound. That's what the band sounded like, those 10 songs. Right.
Yeah.
That's all anybody knew. So when Ride Lightning came out, there's songs on there that don't sound like they could have been on Kill 'Em All. About half the record sounds like it could have. And the other parts, when you hear Fade to Black, that doesn't sound like it would have been on the first record, or For Whom the Bell Tolls or whatever. So it's like they grew, they blossomed a little bit. And that's what we're doing on this record is maintaining the original integrity and then adding some spice to it, adding some flavor combinations that maybe weren't there the first time around. And it's pretty exciting because Tim's got a bunch of ideas. I've got ideas. Pete's got ideas. Charlie, even our drummer Tony, who's an amazing musician. He's not just a good drummer. He's an incredible vocalist and guitar player too. And he's got a ton of ideas. So this record going into this, it's not just the Jymissary and Timissary show anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're adding flavor from the other guys a bit more than we probably ever did in the past.
Oh wow, well
Definitely.
said, man. I love that. I love what I'm hearing, man. I love what I'm hearing, because I mean, you don't want to do the same record twice, right? You don't want to be AC/DC.
No.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I respect that branding. I respect when a band
It
goes,
works
hey,
for some bands.
we've got the thing that works. Why, if it ain't broke, right? And
yeah.
With AC/DC, with all due respect, I want to hear the same record.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to hear an Iron Maiden riff on an AC/DC record. I mean, I love the way an Iron Maiden riff sounds, but I don't want to hear that with AC/DC because that's not what they do.
Exactly.
They got 5 subject matters they write about. They've got 3 chords. They've got 1 drum beat. That's them, and when the new record comes out and it sounds exactly like the other ones, I'm like, okay, they did it right. you know,
right?
Yeah.
Some bands don't evolve. Yeah, some bands don't evolve.
But I mean, I want to look at as in the sense of for you guys, right? As the musicians that you guys are, right? There's so many influences, right? There's so many, like you guys are just fans of music, right? And
Oh yeah.
it just shows, it just kind of brings it together where like, okay, the second record, it's got to be different, right? It's going to have the Emissary stamp of approval, right? It's going to get that sound, but we gotta change it up a bit, right? So because we want the listener to be like, hey, that first record was awesome, but the second one, it was different, and I like this, and blah blah blah. You know, just as fans of we are, right? That's how we are as fans.
Well, we've got to be careful though to not grow in directions that we know the fan base doesn't like. So, you know, I mean, I'm a fan of, you know, pop punk and, you know, some, I don't know, country and old 60s music, and Tim likes, you know, some like alt rock kind of things, and you know, bass players into like, you know, more groove stuff. If we dropped into a Corrosion of Conformity riff on the record, people would go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. Or something that sounds too much like Van Halen or a pop punk melody. You know, we got to kind of keep it in the same lane. And when we were talking about the artwork, we just got artwork back last night for a new single that we're dropping. And I was telling Tim last night, we haven't even verbally talked about this yet. We were just texting about it, saying what I really love about it is the artwork itself. It looks enough like the other album cover that you could put them next to each other and you could tell those two covers are from the same band for sure. But they don't sound, I mean, they don't look anything like they're from, like they don't look too much alike. They look alike the way that Iron Maiden records all kind of look alike.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
What's up, everybody? Want to jump in really quick to tell about one of my favorite brands and my brothers over at Heavy Defender merch. Heavy Defender merch products are a must-have for any heavy metal fan. Their banners, pins, and apparel is made from high-quality materials that feature bold, eye-catching designs that are truly to capture the essence of the metal lifestyle. The shirts are comfortable and durable as hell, man. The hoodies are perfect for when you're leaving the whiskey and it's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning, it's cold as shit. Heavy Defenders offers a great selection of products for any metalhead looking to represent their passion in freaking style. With unique designs and quality material, hey, check out HDM.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you want to have again a familiar the theme, right? The familiar theme that's what's in the band, right? You know, so you know, and then you know, Mr. Mothman, what's the approach on your side, on the guitar side, right? Coming into it, you know, what how are we spicing it up there?
Well, you know, I start from a place a lot of the times, and I'm not trying to, I don't try and copy anything, but I'll like with the new album, I would listen to a bunch of music that I already love, and I will say, okay, I'm gonna write this. Like let's just say I'm gonna write a Fight Fire with Fire, like Metallica did, but it's not gonna sound like their song. But I want to write that song, but in my way. Nobody's going to necessarily say, oh, that sounds like Fight Fire with Fire, but I will take that model. And I did that with the first song, the song we're going to release soon. I did that from the Death Angels first album. And there are a couple songs on there that I absolutely love. And so I took the beginning of one of their songs and I was like, I'm going to make my own beginning that gives you this kind of feeling with the buildup. And that's usually my approach. Usually it comes from another place. Now, I evolved later into other stuff. After I left Emissary, I moved, and then I was in cover bands for years, just traveling and doing that side of the music business. And then throughout time, I got to like bands like Disturbed, where I was like, okay, this out of all the stuff that's coming out, this is the one that speaks to me. And if I were to start writing a Disturbed song, it would not work. And so I was in another band that I was able to do some of that stuff with, but being, you know, there are the bands that can evolve, and, you know, Rush did that really well, but they lost a lot of people. But Metallica was a band, you know, the AC/DC fans want to hear the same album over and over again. Metallica fans apparently also do too, because they really made people mad with the Black Album and then beyond.
Drink every time we say Metallica.
Oh my God, dude, we would be done. We would be done.
Right?
I wouldn't even be able to stop, recording, we'd just be like,
right, Metallica. But
Yeah.
so many people are so mad about the new album, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're giving you all those riffs again, and James isn't going to sing like he did on Master. He's just not going to do that again. And production is different. They're not going to go backward. Guess what you can do, person that hates all the new albums? You can go back and listen to the first 4. How amazing is that? That's why they're there. That's part of the catalog. And they're not going to give you that again. And
either way, they're going to make their money. Either way.
Right?
Let's just be real.
Either
They're going to make their money, dude.
And they're big enough to be able to do that. They're big enough to be able to change and kind of make a quick left or right turn. And we're not. We understand that. We could, we were working on a song trying to make it fit this album, and we just got to a point where it's like, okay, let's not put too much more energy into this. We can maybe do a side project or revisit it and change it around. But because it was a beautiful song and it would have been amazing, but there will be those people, and we're not doing this just for those people, but we want it to be received, and we want the people that are hungry to be able to eat the meal that they want to eat, and not worry about it. So my approach for the new album is just a lot the same as it was, before, just coming up with the killer riffs and putting them together and getting excited and recording them and sending them to Jim. And then all of a sudden Jim either says nothing to me or he'll come back another song down the road. He'll come back and say, hey, I started writing some lyrics. So that's when I know I hit a nerve. And so it's the same process as before, but just with, new technology and new ways to communicate it.
It's funny that we'll be coming from 2 different places too, where he'll be like thinking of Death Angel, for example, when he's coming up with a riff, and I'm thinking Metal Church when I'm coming up with the lyrics, and when then you put them together and suddenly it doesn't sound like either Metal Church or Death Angel, it sounds like Emissary.
Yeah. And that's where the influence start to come together and start to meld. That's where the Emissary sound starts to come out. Like, hey, we're over here, but I'm over here. Let's
let me ask you, Matt. I mean, when you listen
up?
to the new record, I mean, it doesn't sound like anything's out of place, right? I mean, it's
no, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like, I loved it, man. I'm being 100% with you. And from start to finish, I'm like, it grew on me, right? It grew on me more and more and more. Like every other album, right? It grows on you. But there's different. Even when you listen to, I had the expectation of like, hey, okay, this is gonna be thrash or this is gonna be power metal because of what I've read, your guys' bio and stuff, right? But I was like, hey, whatever. Let's see what's up. I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh shit, this is old school. And like it hit me here. I'm like, oh damn, like this took me back to when I was in high school too. you know, so nothing is out of place. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. And the fact that, like I was saying earlier, the guitars and the vocals right there, bass and drums right where they need to be, kind of like Old Testament, like old overkill.
That.
You know what I mean? Just like and kudos to you, Jymbo, on just kind of like, hey, dude, I'm the front man. That got me like a very Bobby Blitz type of feel, because he's like, hey, I'm gonna just do my thing. I'm gonna have fun when we're doing it live and just handle business, right? I'm not Dio, I'm not here, but it sounded really fucking good, you guys. Like, kudos.
Everybody plays to their strengths, and it's everybody understands that it's not, we're not on, nobody's on their own little stage. We're all on one stage. So it's about how this thing relates to this thing and how this thing relates to this thing to make it all work together. It's all the ingredients working together. It's, we're not gonna have a part where it's like, oh, we got to do a 7-minute bass solo in the middle of the song, or it doesn't sound like the drummer's doing a drum solo the whole time. He's playing the song that we're playing. I'm not over singing, and we try not to overplay and almost underplay things a little bit to kind of make you pay attention to the song rather than go, wow, listen to that guitar part where you're distracted because there's one guy that's sticking out in the band.
And we've all been in different bands since 96 when Emissary dissolved at the time, and we've all done different projects, and we all have friends and people that like all of our music. And I think with all of us, people have probably said when we did the Emissary stuff again and starting in 2020, I think people are like, that's what I wanted to hear from you. That's where it sounds the most real, and you hit my sweet spot. And I think that's the case with Jim in a lot of ways. People are like, we want, I've known you in all your bands and they're all great. This is where it feels the most real and natural, and the energy's
Authentic.
real and coming from a real place. Authentic.
Yeah,
for
I was literally just gonna say that it sounds authentic, brother. And it was an organic build. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it sounds because there's gonna be some bands that we've heard in the past that come and gone, and the reason why they've come and gone is because it's not there, right?
Right.
The chemistry is not there, or
You got to be calculated a little bit. You got to
yeah.
you got to plan some things out, of course.
Things have to be intentional. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and
then but you also have to leave some room for like doing the thing that just feels right.
yeah, no, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like I want to ask you guys, because I feel like thrash, in the direction that it's going, there was a period where, it wasn't about the songwriting anymore. It was just like who could play the fastest, who could
Yeah.
shred the most, who's gonna yell the most, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, like power metal, thrash, death metal, all whatever that you. It's like, dude, that's not the point. The point is to
Deliver
write-
good songs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And you guys have been able to accomplish that with this album, right? Songs. Let's get back to that shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I
No
mean,
doubt.
guys, I want to wrap it up. I
Yeah.
could talk to you guys for another fucking hour.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. So keep me posted on the new stuff, man. You guys have my email, all that stuff. I want to hear from it, but I want to give you guys a chance to plug. Where can they find you? I mean, I know social media, but what what's coming up in the woodworks?
Yeah, Jimbo.
Yeah, so we're opening for Sebastian Bach at
Oh,
the end of May. Super stoked about that. It was a little late to try to put a tour together for this year, so we're talking about doing some of that next year, actually hitting the road and playing multiple shows and actually doing a tour next year, because after the pandemic, like there was a lot of bands hungry to get on every stage possible. So by the time we hit anybody up, it's like, yeah, we're booked out for several months. So we have that gig, and we might be throwing a couple other things together, and releasing this digital single. And later in the year, we're planning a full-length album. And you can find us. You can pretty much Google the original Emissary, because there are a few other bands that have had that name, but when people talk about Emissary in metal, I think they're talking about us. So
Yeah,
look at
if
the
you
original
Google
Emissary.
Emissary, Google
Yeah.
Emissary metal. If you just Emissary metal band, we're the prominent one that comes up.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So we're on
cool.
Instagram and Facebook and all of that, and Bandcamp.
And YouTube as well. You can find the album
Yep.
on the New Wave of Traditional Heavy Metal YouTube channel and the Emissary channel, and a few other people have put our stuff out there.
And just the other day, we hit 18,000 views on our album on that channel, and that's just on
Oh,
one channel
shit.
alone. Yeah,
Nice,
mean, we have-
dude.
we have almost that many views on the album on our own channel. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like
what's up.
30.
Yeah,
I can't do math. 35,000.
36,
people.
35, 36, yeah.
It's a big number.
Yeah. A lot of
A
people.
number that we weren't expecting. So
Yeah, no, and I caught you guys on Spotify,
Yep.
and I was like,
Awesome.
all of those, yeah.
yeah, and I was, because I'm a big Spotify guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me.
Easy.
Everybody's different,
Sure.
but it's
Easy.
just I like how it flows, and I just I saw everything and I was like, dude, that's what's up, man. Yeah, so
Yep.
they could find you on Spotify as well.
Yep.
Yeah, all those.
Apple Music, all of that.
All the fun
iTunes,
stuff.
yeah, we're everywhere.
Yeah. All right, guys, awesome.